Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the latest episode of the Adopt 365 podcast. I'm your host, Barry Coombs, and today we're going to be talking about those applications in Microsoft 365 that you're probably not making the most out of in your organization. Before we do that, let's welcome my co host. So, first of all, Megan Warren,
Hi, everybody.
and second, Anthony Charman.
Hello, everyone.
So, everybody that is listening to this podcast now, whether it is on your favorite podcast app or whether it's on YouTube, highly recommend that you like this, that you subscribe to our channel, and let's give us a comment. Let's understand what you want us to be talking about next episode on the Adopt 365 podcast. So, before we get into the main content today, all about those applications that are on the periphery of use cases, maybe that some people in pockets are making use of in your organization, but maybe you've not fully considered how it could be useful to you and the use cases around you, let's go through our one thing for this month. So what is the one thing? This is our opportunity to highlight something that we've seen in the news, an application we've been playing with, or something that has just stand out to us inside Microsoft 365. So Anthony, let's go over to you first.
So I've been doing a lot of work this month on Teams rooms. We've been implementing Teams rooms back at the office, and it's given me some really good opportunity to get some hands-on stuff with that. But there's been one fundamental change with Teams room, and that is around the licensing. We previously, and I'll probably get this wrong, but we used to have a standard license and then a professional license or an advanced license. And they were the ways in which those things were licensed. We've now, just as the beginning of the month, moved to a basic license and a professional license. And there's some fundamental differences between those and the way in which it was licensed before. So I'd suggest you read some posts on that. I'm just getting my head around it. I think the basic license allows you to license up to 25 devices within an organization. It's free of charge, but it's got quite limited functionality. Certainly doesn't support room panels outside the room. So most people that we've done Teams rooms designs for have those panels, so they will need to upgrade to the professional license, which gives you a lot more functionality around monitoring those rooms and supporting those rooms and managing those rooms for larger organizations. Barry, I don't know if you've looked at that at all and got your head around it.
Yeah, definitely. I think from a user perspective as well, I think there's some of the in-room experiences that are only going to be available to the professionals. So I think the biggest one is Front Row, which is the feature where they're really kind of changing the look and feel of Teams meetings, allowing you to get more of that content, allowing you to get eye-to-eye contact in the meetings. And I think for that reason, as well as all the other reasons that you mentioned, Anthony, I think most of our customers and most of the people looking to implement Teams rooms are probably going to end up wanting that professional license. So highly recommend that you speak to your licensing specialist, such as Computer World, and you understand what that change is going to be, when it's likely to come in, to make sure you've got that in your budgets.
Yeah, one of the ones I noticed, which we use quite a lot, is remote restart, which only comes with the professional one. So, all of our Teams rooms are based in our head office in Bristol, but they're managed from people outside the organization, and you often just need to reboot the thing. So that's not something that's available within the basic license. So there are some gotchas with this new licensing model. So well worth looking at those, and I will probably put a blog together around that very soon as it becomes clear.
Definitely one to watch. So Megan, what is your one thing? What's been stand out to you?
Mine is a feature in Teams meetings, seems to be a theme here. But it's just a feature. I don't think it's the newest feature. It's just one that I really sort of noticed recently and started using. So when somebody in a Teams meeting shares content with you, you may notice that at the top of the screen you have an option to pop out that content. Now, simple button, we've been able to pop out chats and everything for a while now, but being able to pop out that content means I have the content on one screen and I can see that full screen, and then I can still see the gallery of people on my other screen. I'm someone that really likes to see people when I'm talking to them. So if I can see their pictures bigger than what it puts on the side or in the corner when it goes all small, I much prefer that. So just a really simple feature that when people share content, I click the pop out button and I can then see the content bigger and I can interact with the people because I can see their faces bigger as well. So really simple, but really like that feature.
I think there's an
Definitely, I think that's
interesting quick thing there that, sorry, Barry, in that I just like to see people's faces. I'm just very aware that if people don't have their camera on, I tend to, not purposefully, but I just tend to ignore them in the conversation. So really interested if people want to put some feedback on the podcast about how they feel about having their camera on and the pros and cons of that, and how they cope with, in meetings where you've got a large number of people who haven't got their cameras on.
Mm.
Definitely. I think it's hopefully an initial step in applications like Teams supporting multi-screen better. From my perspective, I'd like to be able to go into the settings and go, look, when I'm on a Teams call, I'd like it to look like this on my dual screens. So I don't have to pop out that meeting. I don't have to be rearranging it in the client and things like that. And potentially, I might generally have my Teams client on one screen, but if it's a call, I might have it on the screen that's underneath my webcam, for example. So I'm making more of that eye-to-eye contact. So hopefully we see these things maturing over time. And obviously with the webcam thing, we're likely to see the avatars appearing soon, where you have the option to kind of still be there, still be represented by someone and not the camera. And I think, Megan, as you've shared before, that has some negative connotations. Maybe some of the people that have previously been on camera no longer wish to be on camera. But I think maybe for others, it does allow them still to be represented in the meeting. You can still see their facial gestures. You can still see how they're sitting, whether they're slumped down or whether they're up in the seat. So I'd be interested to see when that feature comes, how it is adopted, what effects it has on meetings. One of the areas that Microsoft are saying is it will allow you to not feel like you're on camera so much. It's quite tired thinking that you are constantly presenting to the camera, so it will allow you to be represented whilst not necessarily feeling on edge, like you have to present, that you have to be kind of in front of the camera all the time. So it'll be interesting.
Mm. It will. It's the new world we're coming into, isn't it? It feels like we're in a movie. If I'm seeing half the people as avatars and half the people as real, it's like we're interacting with a movie or something.
Definitely. So my one thing, I'm one of these people that goes into Microsoft Teams or goes into 365, and I love it when I see a new feature has appeared or a new application has appeared. I know some of you listening won't necessarily be so passionate about that. That'll be one of the challenges, trying to help and train your users with these features. But one of the features that I've seen be ignited in our tenant at the moment is Excel Live. So this is the ability inside your Teams meeting to share an Excel spreadsheet in a live manner. So inside the team meeting, you can all be looking at adjusting, changing figures, kind of like you can do when you co-author in Excel, but this is with the added benefit of having the team meeting around it as well. So it's currently public preview. I've seen a few bugs with people that have tried it initially, but give it a go, see what you think, and let us know. This is kind of an addition to PowerPoint Live that was previously launched, which also we should be seeing soon. I haven't yet seen it in mine. Is the cameo feature in PowerPoint Live, allowing you to embed yourself into the presentation and not just be on the periphery of the presentation embedded in as well. So lots of new features coming up. I think it's quite interesting to see when those come on board and what time frame that will be, really.
Definitely. I'm gonna say though, we've got PowerPoint Live, we've got Excel Live. I cannot wait for Word Live. I spend so much time in Word, and I spend so much time in Word with my team that I would just love to be able to do that in meetings. I'm not a big Excel fan, not a big Excel user, so we could have skipped Excel and gone straight to Word, in my opinion. But good to see Excel Live, but I'd love to see Word Live as the next one.
Well, what was the old game in Windows where you used to be able to go and find the mines? You go and explode the mines, didn't you? It was built into Windows as a game.
Yeah, battleships, was it?
It was that kind of thing. I
Yeah.
know Ollie will be listening to this podcast and he'll can't believe I couldn't remember it. But
Yeah.
hopefully we have a bit of gamification coming into it as well, and we could do a little bit more than just use productivity applications, maybe for those social reasons. So a couple of things then before we get on to the main content for today. The first is make sure that you're registered for Define Tomorrow. This is our Microsoft Cloud event taking place on the 23rd of November in Bristol. Go to www.definetomorrow.co.uk. We have content both for technical professionals and Microsoft 365 champions. We've got great speakers that have been announced covering a wide variety of subjects. It would be great to hear and see some of our podcast listeners attending, joining in and understanding how the Microsoft tools can help you further. And then secondly, there's a small event, obviously smaller than our own event, and definitely takes second place. Microsoft Ignite is coming around for the second time this year on October the 12th to the 14th. It is going to be both in person and virtual. So I recommend that you are registered for that so you can see what's coming up as well. Anthony, I think you might have had one to add as well.
Yeah, I was just going to say we've spent quite a lot of time setting up a number of Teams rooms back at our head office, just north of Bristol. So really, if people want to see that technology in action, then do reach out to your account manager or directly to one of us. We have got a Windows-based Teams room in a kind of large environment. We've got a couple of smaller ones. We've got one in a training room as well, which we've done quite a good setup around that. And we're using a Microsoft not a Microsoft Neat board, a Neat board in our boardroom. So if you want to see any of those technologies in action, and I would say it's really good just to come along and see them, just to then be able to think about the different use cases that you can use them in within your organization, then just reach out to, say, your account manager or one of us, and we can set up a session to help you to choose the right technologies for your organization and see where you can get some real business benefits from hosting those kind of hybrid meetings, not only with your employees, but also with clients.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Anthony. Yeah, we'd love to see you come and see the technology in action. So let's get on to the main subject of today. Megan, I'm going to head straight over to you. So around this podcast, we wanted to identify some applications that we believe are commonly underused that really would add value to our listeners. Do you want to talk about your first application?
Yeah, sure. So my first one, and I think I've probably mentioned it on a past few podcasts as well, is Microsoft Bookings. So for those of you who don't know what Bookings is, it is a application within Microsoft 365 that allows you to set up a page, and people can book meetings with you directly from here and see your availability. So I've seen this being used in a few different use cases. So we had one that we actually set up at ComputerWeb when we were coming back from COVID into the office as desk booking. Now, that's probably not the ideal use case, but actually it was really good to be able to use that to see which desks were available at what time. You can put buffer times in there so we could have that sort of cleaning time and stuff like that. You can set it up for a team of people. So if you had a team of people that host different meetings, like the pre-sales team, you can have a page where you pick which type of meeting it is, whether it's about Microsoft 365, whether it's about Microsoft Azure. It then finds that right person that's available there and then shows you their availability. And you just book the meeting straight from there. And it gets rid of that awful bit that we all struggle with between going, I'm available here, no, I'm not available there. Just send the link out to this booking page. Everyone can see your availability. They book the right time, and it sends you a Teams invite automatically, or an in-person meeting invite as well if you prefer. So yeah, it just makes booking meetings with people a lot easier to show your availability. And as I say, can be used in a number of different use cases depending on what your specific needs are, really.
Yeah, I think we've used that very effectively with one of our clients who's a solicitor. And we've configured it for them so that people can actually book an appointment, either an hour appointment or a half-hour appointment, with one of their frontline solicitors. And it just has taken away that whole toing and froing, as Megan said, about negotiating what time you're going to meet. People just make a number of appointments available each day at times that are convenient to them. And they can just send a link to someone, say, yes, I agree, I want to talk to you. Just click on this link and it'll tell you when I'm available. And it just manages all of that. It saved them an absolute fortune in the time that it used to take to arrange meetings and rearrange meetings when people weren't available. So
I think as
very,
well,
very good technology.
and something I've seen is we all have our own calendars. We all book out time to get work done or focus on something, and you have that focus time. And I know we went through a period where focus time was just being introduced, and people either ignored it, didn't know what it was, so just booked over it. What I've seen is a few people actually only sharing their availability via this booking form. So if I did have focus time in my calendar, you would see in the booking form that I'm not available at that time. At that point, no one can look in my calendar and say, oh, it's only focus time, she doesn't need that, and then book over it, because for all they know, I'm in a customer meeting or I'm doing something else. So they don't see the detail, they just see that availability. So I do find as well that if you have people that tend to book over, or you have an issue with double booking or anything like that, Bookings eradicates that issue of double booking or anything like that, because you are at that point only able to book when that person is available.
I think it's quite an interesting solution because I think it can be used by small and large businesses. I think small businesses may use it to automate booking meetings, booking resource in their whole organization. So if you're a small accountancy firm, solicitors, as Anthony has mentioned, maybe you're a one two-man band consultant and you want the ability to offer a free discovery session or a marketing agency, for example. But those larger companies, they're unlikely maybe to automate the whole booking process for a team of 1,000 solicitors, for example, using it. They probably need a more built out, considered solution that can do that. However, it could be used by that same large company for individuals to create their own services, to be able to go out and deliver certain elements of that business, their role to the organization. So I really like bookings. I hope it's built upon. I'm looking forward to looking into the API a little bit more, see if we can maybe make it a bit more extensible with Power Automate, or things like that, to make the booking experience a little bit more native in the website or something like that. But it's fantastic technology for people to go and look at.
My only recommendation, if you are setting up a booking form, and especially if it is your first one in bookings, is just make sure you click on every little drop down expandable list that there is. There's so many different settings in there, from buffer time to setting holiday times that you can't be booked out for that time, to branding your page. Everything like that is all included, but they tend to be in the sort of area that maybe you're not expecting them to be. So I would just recommend, whenever you're setting up, whether it's your first, whether it's your 10th, just make sure you click on everything, because it can be easy to miss it. If you're used to setting it up, you may forget about it. And if it's your first time, you may not know it's there. So that's my only recommendation, is just click on all the settings and make sure you've got it set correctly. If you don't and you make it live, you can always go back and change them, but getting it right from the offset just makes your life easier moving forward.
Is bookings covered in a .365, Megan? Is that a technology we've covered in there?
Yes, yeah, it is. There's a playlist on how to use it, how to set up a booking page, and all of that. So yeah, check out the booking playlist in a .365. Nice plug.
Definitely. So just a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by Adopt 365, the training and development platform for Microsoft 365. So if you're looking for a way to train your users and come and get up to date with all these technologies, reach out to us. We can demonstrate that to you. And there's technologies like bookings in there that we show you how to make the most of, and how to use that inside your organization. So let's move on. And sorry, go on, Anthony.
Just going to say, we've just added a whole raft of content in there about Microsoft Teams rooms, as well as we've built our expertise there. We've been able to put some content into a .365 to cover off the best way to manage and configure your rooms, and how to get the most out of that functionality. So
fantastic. I didn't know that. That's really good. So the next one was mine, and I'm picking Visio. So you're probably of two camps. You're one, you are a technical professional and you go, what's Barry talking about? Visio's been around for ages. I hate using it to create system diagrams. And you might be two, going, what's Visio? I've never heard of that. Is it a new application? So Visio has been around for a very long time. It has been used in the technical professions for a long time to build technical diagrams, things like network diagrams, rack diagrams, solution diagrams, and it's available as an installed application on Windows. However, it was about a year ago, Microsoft released a new version of the web version, and it is now included in a lot of the Microsoft 365 packages. So Visio Online allows you to create quickly and easily diagrams. So if you are somebody that needs to create a business process diagram, a flow chart, an organizational chart, any kind of descriptive diagram, I highly recommend that you take a look at Visio. So the way to access it would be go to office.com or go to the Office application, look under all applications, and it's likely you will be licensed for Visio. Go in there and you'll see a wide variety of templates that you can use to get started with creating your diagram. It's also possible to use other objects to import those into there. That diagram can be shared with others inside your organization, or you have the ability to export it as a PNG diagram to go into a presentation, or some kind of vector diagram as well. So previously, Visio has probably only been used with technical professionals, people that are creating technical drawings, maybe even outside of the IT industry as well. I'm advocating everybody to go and have a look at Visio, especially if you need to create some kind of descriptive diagram. I don't think it's something we've covered that much at the moment in Adopt 365, but it's something that I would recommend everyone starts to have a look at now, because often people will jump into things like PowerPoint to go and start creating a flow diagram or something like that. It's a lot easier to go and do that in Visio and then export it to put into your presentation afterwards.
I've got to build a floor plan out for Define Tomorrow for our exhibition area, Barry. Does that sound like the right sort of thing to be putting into Visio? I've been trying to do it in Word, and as I said, I love Word, but every time you try and move one little box, it all jumps over the place.
Yeah, Visio would be a lot better tool for that, and you're able to create it to a scale. You're able to lock things to a grid and not lock things to a grid. Don't get me wrong, I'm sure there will be frustrations in Visio, and any technical professional that's used it on the desktop for a while will tell you sometimes of things snapping in the wrong area and things like that. But no, Visio is a lot better tool than trying to do that in Word or PowerPoint. Visio is meant for creating those kind of diagrams. So yeah, go and have a look at Visio and see how you get on with that.
There we
But
go. There's my first use case.
I do know a lot of people who would then jump straight to Excel and start drawing lots of little boxes on that and highlighting them. But yeah, certainly Visio is the right tool for creating those kind of plan diagrams and things of that nature. So yeah, it's a funny one because it was licensed slightly differently to Microsoft 365, but now they've brought that in line. It makes a lot of sense to start using that.
Definitely. We'll see if John or Jen is listening to this podcast. Excel isn't the right tool for everything, and maybe go and look at Visio for some of these diagrams. We'll see if they're listening. So, Anthony, over to you into a tool that's probably been available for quite a while, but it's quite underused. So, yeah, what are you going to cover?
So this kind of journey started off with working with a client to start developing an intranet for them, and a key element to intranets is often an employee directory. So my first thought was a product I'd heard of a long time ago called Delve, and I was almost surprised to find it still there in the Microsoft 365 app launcher. And so we started to look at Delve as being a way to build an employee directory. And it's a great little tool. It brings together a lot of documents that are related to people. It's really a kind of people related application, but it also allows you to create a directory of all your employees. It actually draws all its information from Active Directory. So as long as you've got the relationships between employees correct within your AD configuration, it will automatically build that organization chart. It will say who's related to who. It will show you who has, what documents people have been accessing recently. But it also allows you to build profiles for people. Or in actual fact, to be more truthful, it allows people to build their own profiles. So you can put your photograph in there. You can put which projects you've been working on recently, what skills you have, and you can start to build out your profile. What your interests are, and all of that stuff is searchable. So you can, things that I've used it for in the past, things like put against people's profile what languages that they speak. So you can go in and then search and say, tell me all the people who speak French, or tell me all the people who speak Spanish. When I've used it in the past, we've put people's car registrations in there, so that if someone's car is blocking your car in the car park, you can go straight into Delve as an employee directory, type in their registration number, and it'll tell you whose car that is. So there's some really good stuff around that. Also around what skills you've got, so which qualifications you've got from a technical point of view. But who can we find the first aider? Can we find the mental health first aiders within an organisation? And Delve allows us to build all of those things out in there. So that's what I started looking at from that point of view. And I would suggest, anyone who's using Microsoft 365, if you just go to the application waffle and pick Delve, have a look and see what's there. The disappointing thing to get to the end of this little journey was that it seems quite difficult to surface those things in a SharePoint Online intranet. There are no web parts, and although when I look at user voice and the things like that, there's been lots and lots of requests from that. I've not seen any evidence of much development in Delve to start to bring those web parts forward. There is a people web part which we can use in SharePoint Online, which allows us to display the people within a particular department, but it doesn't allow us to click through and pick up any of the information that's held in their their profiles in Delve. There are some, there's some stuff being done around um, APIs. So the Graph API into Delve does allow us to go and get some stuff, but it's it's an overcomplicated process for just trying to bring some of that information into a SharePoint Online intranet solution. So that's what Delve is, but slightly disappointing end note that it's not all that information is in there. You can link straight to it from the intranet, but you can't embed that stuff within a SharePoint Online intranet at the moment.
I mean, Delve is something that I really like, and I think back when I started getting involved with 365, Delve was going to be the hub of searching for things in Microsoft 365. It was kind of that hub of information. Unfortunately, I think then the Graph API came and matured. Unfortunately, I mean, the Graph API is fantastic, empowers many experiences in 365. However, at that point, Delve seemed to stop really getting and being matured. I think something's got to happen around that. I think the whole creating an employee persona, being able to identify things, connect with people in different ways, is very much part of the employee experience that we're seeing Microsoft championing now. So I'd imagine that we'll either see Delve or we'll see it become Viva something else very soon. And this isn't based on any insider information. It's just a need, I think, with hybrid working, with not being in the office and discovering things. I think the need to connect to people based upon similar interests, based upon skills, based upon knowledge, is something that we're going to see more and more for. So yeah, my prediction, within a year, there'll certainly be an announcement that Viva something else will be taken over from Delve, and that information will be surfacing somewhere else.
We
I
probably
think
need
when
to
you talk
mention
about
that. Sorry, Megs. Probably need to mention that Yammer has now come back again in another reincarnation. It went from being Yammer to Microsoft starting to call it Teams Communities, and that's reappeared on my menu bar recently as Viva Engage. And I think there has been some development gone into that. I haven't had a chance to explore that in any more detail. I don't know if anyone else has.
No, I mean, there's a concept there of having your own personal, not profile, but personal board that you can post to. So rather than posting to all company or a specific group, you can just post to your own. So people that are following you can see things that you're working on. It's almost like a blogging concept, which was one of the concepts in Delve. So maybe
Yeah.
Engage would be a good place for that to be built out to in the future. At the moment, there is also another functionality coming, which is like a story functionality that at the top of Viva Engage, you'll be able to post stories and updates like you would see on LinkedIn or Facebook or something like that. So that is building out, and I suppose that would be the natural place for those things to go to. We would just be looking to see probably native 365 functionality akin to Delve going into there rather than sort of segregated information that is in Yammer, which is the information and the way that Yammer has typically worked up until now. So on to the next one then, and I think we're back to me, and we're talking about Microsoft lists. Now, if anybody has watched the Adopt 365 podcast or you've looked at any of the content, I'm a big fan of Microsoft lists. Probably comes from my background of nearly becoming a SQL DBA in the past and liking to be able to structure data into the way to be able to go and find things. So Microsoft lists has been around for some time, was previously known as SharePoint lists. It's now kind of been pulled out of SharePoint, kind of, and is available as its own standalone application on, I believe it's now available on iPhone, on Android, on the web, and there is a desktop client that you can download as well now. And it allows you to create your own list of data that can be filtered and can be displayed in many different ways. So I've worked with a lot of different organizations to use it as systems that allow them to manage and view processes of information. So maybe when something comes in, when people get involved, allocating work to people, so on and so forth. So it's more than just a to-do list. This is about managing the life cycle of something. It could be an asset, it could be a process. You can integrate it with Power Automate to get the information coming in from something like forms that Megan will be talking about in a moment. You can have the ability to alert people when things change inside of there. And you can also change it from looking just like a list, like an Excel document, for example, to being a gallery. So you could see it as a set of assets that might be available. So if you're managing a set of vehicles inside a company, each one of the pictures could be a photograph of the vehicle or an art collection or something like that. So it's highly customizable. It's generally one of those things that is available to the what's Microsoft's term? It's kind of the no code developer kind of community, but you don't have to be
Citizen.
developers. Citizen developers, exactly. So this is
Yeah.
anybody that has a need that isn't met by an existing business application. You are able to use lists in those examples. So we've recently done it to manage a list of suppliers that we need to talk to for specific products and where we are with those relationships and things people need to be aware of. And it was a good way to collect that information together. We use both Power Apps and Power Automate to create some automation and some structure around that as well. So highly recommend that people have a look at Microsoft Lists. I don't know, Megan or Anthony, if you've got any thoughts to add to lists.
I've definitely used lists for Define Tomorrow, the planning of that to track information, and it it makes it a lot easier. And I've even done it where, I don't know, if a speaker confirms that they're going to be coming to the event, it automatically goes green once I tick that box. And it's little things that then just make it a lot easier for me to go back and reference that to check up on stuff like that as well. But yeah, lists is one that I see growing once people understand the use case for it and how useful it can be. It's one that I think people adopt really quickly and see a lot of use cases for it.
Yeah, and I think lists is incredibly well supported in Power Automate. So being able to automate processes based on a list is really powerful way to drive some efficiencies into the processes in your businesses. So yeah, I think that's the main area where I start to use lists to store information and make them available to people and share them with people.
And to Anthony's point earlier around Delve not being available as a SharePoint web part, because lists is built into SharePoint, it is possible for you to make the information in the list easily available on an intranet or a SharePoint site. It is also possible to connect that with other information, as Anthony mentioned, with Power Automate there. And we've done some very complex solutions that list sits right in the middle of it, with information coming in from different sources, being tracked inside lists, and being available to then undertake tasks such as creating teams and channels and managing the life cycle of documents and things like that. So you can get really complex with this, or you can have a nice simple list that allows you to track something. So on to our last application then in our top 5 apps that you might not have already used in Microsoft 365. Megan, over to you.
Yeah, so the last one that we're going to talk about today is forms. So for anybody that has ever used something like SurveyMonkey before, Forms is Microsoft's equivalent of that. So it allows you to create forms, questionnaires, feedback surveys, stuff like that, and share that with either people in your organization, anybody who has the link, anything like that, to collect the information. And then it's also got some analytics tools on the back end, so you can analyze the results that you get from that. You can export the data and stuff like that as well. So it again is a really simple application. It allows you to create the form, brand it, all of that, collect that information, and then analyze it. But there's also a couple other features and sort of use cases for this. Not only are you able to create forms in Forms, you're also able to go and create quizzes. So if you are, which it does differ slightly to Forms. So at the top of Forms, rather than clicking new form, you click new quiz, and that then allows you to mark a right answer. So you can say which of the answers is correct. But it also allows you to give scoring points to that as well. So if you get the answer right, you get 5 points. The next one you get 10, and that adds up to 100 points. And then it's like you get a score at the end of it. So for those sort of organizations that are maybe in the education space, or even if you do internal training and afterwards you want to test your employees or your colleagues to see how much they listened and how much they learned from that, you can give them a quiz at the end of it, and it gives them a score. They can see what they got right, they can see what they got wrong, and you can see that answer as well. So it really comes in two forms. Pun there. Two use cases. You have the forms in Forms, and then you have the quizzes in Forms. And the great bit about it is when you go and create your form, I think you have 10 plus sort of different questions that you can ask, or different ways to ask that question, whether that's a whether that's a Likert scale, whether that is a rating, whether that's a free text answer box or anything like that. So yeah, it's a really good one to use if you're collecting information, sending out surveys, just asking opinions, or doing things like quizzes as well.
Sorry, one thing I was reminded of recently was that you can actually embed videos, so stream and YouTube videos into forms. So back to Megan's scenario where you're doing some staff training or something like that, you can let them, give them a video to watch and then give them some questions to check that they've watched that, or just a something that they can sign online to say this is that I confirm I've watched this. So very useful way of just distributing training to people.
Definitely. And Forms is a fantastic tool, as I alluded to before, as a way of inputting information into a start of a process. So if you want people to be registering for an event, if you want people to be logging a problem, you can use Power Automate in conjunction with lists and other tools such as Excel and things like that to have the information displayed, processed, and managed in a multitude of different ways. And I love the use case that both Anthony, Megan, you spoke about there around user education, about the ability to be able to test where people are. And I didn't previously know that you could embed the video in there, which I think is a really positive example there. So before we wrap up the podcast then, guys, Megan, have you got anything else you'd like to share with our Dot365 community?
Oh, that's a very loaded question. I have so much to share. But for this, I don't believe so. No, I would just recommend that people go check out these applications, especially if there's just one that you've listened to and it's really resonated with maybe something you've wanted to do in the past, something you want to do now, or you think you might want to do in the future. Just have a look at it. And my thing that I always say whenever we do training or anything like that is just test it with one of your colleagues. If it goes wrong, if you break it at that point, it doesn't matter. It's just a test. Make sure you've just tested it before you go and use it in anger. But yeah, just have a look at these applications because they are incredibly useful and ones that we use day in, day out at Computer World.
Definitely. Anthony, anything to add before we wrap up?
Just to reaffirm two of the things that I've said earlier. First thing is Teams rooms. We've got really good demonstration facilities now available in our office in Bristol. You don't really you can't really get your head around how to use these things until you actually go and see it and use it. So do feel free to reach out to us and ask those questions and arrange to come in and have a look. The other thing I would say is a Dot365. If you've not seen it and you want to have a look at it, then reach out to us. There's a phenomenal amount of content in there. It's all bite-sized little chunks, which are ideal for your users, just to you as users to look at, just to remind you of things there. And off the back of that, a Dot365 platform, we also deliver monthly kind of training, live training. And all of the old training that we provide already is available, so you can you go back and rewatch those sessions. So thoroughly recommend you talk to your account manager, or just reach out to Barry, myself, or Megan, and we can set that up for you.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much both for joining me on today's podcast. I hope those that have listened have found this useful and have something to go and take away to their champion community, to their users, to go and see how it could help you in your organization. If you've managed to get this far, make sure you've liked and subscribed, and consider sending it on to a few of your colleagues so they can get just as much out of this podcast as hopefully you have as well. Thank you very much for listening. We look forward to speaking to you again next month, and don't forget to comment below what you'd like to see us talk about next. Thank you for listening.